Hi, I'm Abdul Saad, clinical psychologist at Vital Mind Psychology here in Sydney, Australia, coming to you today with a new series on empaths and understanding the empath temperament. As always, my website is vitalmind.com.au. That's where you can find out more about myself, my approach, and the services I offer, including online coaching wherever you are in the world. So I want to begin this new series exploring the empath temperament and empath psychology by looking at the question, what is an empath? Now, the term empath is not recognized as a clinical construct, and there is no standardized definition of what an empath is. I use the term empath broadly as I believe it's a helpful descriptor when applied to individuals who have been victims of genuine narcissistic abuse. And I've found that these individuals tend to share common psychological features, core key traits and blind spots, which makes them more vulnerable to being victimized by narcissistic individuals. What I aim to achieve in this video series is to distill what these core features of all genuine empaths are. Now, empathy literally means to feel someone else's pain, to feel someone else's feelings, to absorb and be greatly affected by their energy. It's not the same as having sympathy or understanding where someone else is coming from, but literally to feel the feelings of others. And that's going to be something important to keep in mind when we speak about empaths in the genuine sense of the word. These are individuals that are deeply affected by the energy of those around them, including physically affected. Now, the working definition of empath I use in my clinical practice is the following. Number one, an empath is an individual who has an innately high level of attunement to the needs and the energy of those around them. Number two, an empath has difficulty referencing their own needs, including those of their own physical body, especially when they are under stress. Number three, consequently, empaths have an energetically porous psychic structure. That is, they very easily give up their energy to those around them or take on the energy of those around them, and are thus more sensitive to environmental insults and the energy of predatory individuals. And four, empaths have an overdeveloped inner child energy, but typically their inner child has not learned how to properly receive or take in nourishment or support from their environment, and does not receive adequate protection from the underdeveloped adult self of the empath. And this is what I'll be explaining in more detail in future videos in this series. Now, the empath's tendency to absorb the energy of others and their difficulty referencing their own needs leads them to oscillate between two core states. One, a more what I would call a dependent state, where they are dependent on the approval, affirmation, reassurance, and acceptance of others. They easily give up their energy when in this state, not only to please others, but to gain their protection, their support. We could call this the empath's vulnerable state or dependent state. And secondly, what we could call a counter-dependent state, where the empath seemingly denies their vulnerability, tries to function as an adult with a seemingly non-porous psychological structure that can protect their inner child, but ends up collapsing back into this state of dependency. And this is what I call the empath's pseudo-adult state. Now, the oscillation between these two states, dependent and counter-dependent, or a vulnerable / fearful / hyper-agreeable state, and a state where there is a seeming denial of vulnerability, creates predictable problems for empaths, including trouble holding their ground, owning and asserting their position, easily giving up their authority in exchange for what they perceive will gain them security, protection, acceptance, or love, or will cause the lessening of conflict, and difficulty taking in support or actively resisting help, owing to the belief that they need to only rely on themselves, the counter-dependent stance, and I've touched on this in a previous video called the core emotion that makes empaths vulnerable to narcissists, where I talked about the central role of pride, or the emotion of pride. This oscillation between this dependent and counter-dependent state also makes the empath's nervous system lean more toward being stuck in a chronic stress overwhelm. Now, there is a smaller group of empaths that are so incredibly energetically attuned to their environment that they very frequently feel overwhelmed in the world. Their nervous system is overwhelmed by stimuli, and they can have increased difficulty functioning in any meaningful adult capacity when under stress. These are the individuals who, within a very short period of time of being in the presence of a genuinely predatory narcissistic individual, will begin to manifest physical distress such as headaches, or in severe cases can even begin to experience dissociation. In this group of empaths, in addition to the difficulty with taking in or receiving nourishment or support and care from their environment, and also protecting their inner child from being vampirized, there's been a wounding to their basic sense of safety in the world, their basic right to fundamentally exist, especially in a physical body. So that was a very quick video, because in the next video in this series, I will be outlining a working model of the empath's psyche, their inner psychological makeup, in order to begin to assist empaths to better understand themselves and the healing work they do. And if you find this material that I'm presenting to be helpful, this is original material. It's based on my working with empaths clinically. It's not primarily from literature or from books. And if it makes sense to you, this guides the way that I work with empaths in clinical practice and in coaching, looking at their self states, looking at what's happening to them energetically, and in the next video, I will begin to put some of these pieces together by looking at how various components of the empath psyche come together and can help us understand some of the both the gifts that empaths have, as well as some of the typical difficulties they present with and they face. So until the next video, which hopefully won't be too long away, I look forward to seeing you again. God willing, take care, all the best, bye-bye.